Hello everyone, and welcome to the first video showing my custom Ertls. This is going to be kind of like Tug's Trains, showing how I built it while also acting as a promotional ad for the product itself. This might be a one-time thing as I'm kind of seeing how well you like this video format. This summer has been very busy, and I want to do at least some videos. Being stuck with projects is not a healthy thing, but at least it's myself doing the piling on and not an employer. Anyways, let's begin. First out of the box from Shapeways, initial appraisal has to happen, just to make sure that everything is in the box and a part hasn't broken or gone missing, since shipping from New York to my state is a week-long task. After making sure that everything has arrived and is undamaged, it's time to start separating the pieces from the sprues. While I could use actual sprue clippers, cuticle clippers work well in a pinch. Following this, I like to try and test fit the parts together. It's important since at this time I didn't have a printer, and when designing, it's fair to say I've gone through a couple failures. Sometimes an adjustment must be made on the fly just to make sure that it works. Like here, you can see that the bottom plate that keeps the engine together just doesn't fit. I had to make a slight adjustment with a razor and the engine went together much better at last. I have since redesigned this bottom plate to fit better. Once the body plate was assembled, it was time to move on to the painting. For Alfred, I used blue-green medium from Blick since it's a close enough apple green, because it's a pain to get colors exactly as you want, since what one company calls apple green looks different from brand to brand, and the color looks different after it dries. Since the paint goes on really thin, and because I like to brush my paints on since sprays are a little messy and less easy to control, I have to do many layers. 5 layers or so later, and the body is done. To speed up drying between layers, I use a small fan to dry the paint. This has helped me work faster on painting my models in the past, so I have a habit of doing it. Moving on to the wheels, they get the same treatment, painted with blue-green many times to get a solid green layer, just like the body. Now to mount the wheels. This is a tricky part since all Ertl wheels are similar to Matchbox/Hot Wheels cars. 2 wheels on a pin with flat ends on a small round head to keep them on. But since I don't have the ability to do that myself, I'm going to go with a different tactic used by customizers for replacing wheels on their Hot Wheels. For that I need 2-inch head pins, some brass tubing, a brass tube cutter, and some pliers. The first 3 items were all bought at Hobby Lobby. To make the axles, I first cut the brass tubing to fit inside the middle of the chassis. After that, I cut the head pins down to size. I do this by eye, always giving it extra so I can cut them down to size so that it fits within the space between the connecting rods. Now that all the pieces are in place, it's time to get assembling. A tiny little dab of glue on the ends of the pins while the wheel is on the axle and insert it into the tube helps keep it in place. For Alfred, I did this 1 pin at a time, though I have come up with a better method of applying a dab of gel superglue onto the pin and tube once it's the proper distance apart. Well, I'll explain that in a future video. As you can see, these wheels and axles let Alfred be the same height as the other Ertl rolling stock and roll very smoothly. Smooth as butter. Now for the side decals, I created them using my art program. Since Tinkercad can flatten out the image, that is, without the fisheye effect, I was able to get a perfect flat side view of Alfred. After resizing the image of Alfred to match the length and height of his real-life model, I drew lining over it. After that was done, I copied it a few times and then took it to Bedlam Creations to have the decals made. After a few weeks, I had the decals ready. After some gentle coaxing and soaking in water, I slid the decals off the transfer sheet and applied them to the model and left them to dry. And might I just say, this was my very first time actually using wet slide transfer decals. I had used dry transfer decals in the past, and I think I would probably prefer dry transfer because wet transfer is a little finicky. After the decal had dried, I carefully cut out the windows to be clear of the transfer film. A quick screwing together, and for the most part, Alfred is finished. It just needs one more detail. And here's where the face comes from. Just simply resized my devious Alfred face to fit on the boiler, sliced it up in Chitu box, and then sent it to my printer. After some painting to give it that classic Ertl look, the face was ready to be mounted. For this model, I used my go-to hobby tech. This stuff I've used in the past for mounting some faces on my models temporarily. It works perfectly. Just spread a small amount of the smoke box and let it dry till it's tacky. Then all that's left is to put on the devious face. And that is how I made Alfred, and you can too. He is now for sale in my Shapeways store, along with replacement wheels for your own Ertls. A link to the decal sheet for Alfred's sides is down in the description, so you too can make your own Ertl Alfred, the Holden B12, or just a regular B12 if that's your desire. This is the first of many more custom Ertls in my store. Some will come in kit form from Shapeways, but if you are looking to save some money, there is a link in the description also to my new self-run business, Midnight Valley Railway Workshop's Special Order Department, or just the Special Order Department. There, you can order some of my products for a fraction of what Shapeways is offering. However, before you flood me with orders, I must mention that you'll need to fill out the form provided and copy that information into an email. Also, not everything from my store will be offered here, and even some parts I will need to get printed from Shapeways first, because some kits will require quality materials since resin tends to break easily. This is just a more cost-effective option for those wishing to save a couple bucks, but at the cost of higher quality materials. Just keep that in mind, alright? No more splitting half or a majority of the cost of my product with Shapeways. All models will be cleaned and cured before shipping, so don't fret about needing to do that upon receiving these items. Also, these kits will come with some of the parts, but not others like couplings or wheels. I'm sorry to say you will need to source those yourself. Since this new business will be self-run, I'll keep you all informed on times when this service will be open or closed on my Twitter page. These closures may result from equipment problems, real-life issues, or other situations I can't predict. Don't worry though if you're waiting on something from me and I close the store. I'll work through the orders that already came in before the closure. I wouldn't do that to you guys. I'm not gonna leave you hanging. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you thought of this format, and if you'd like to see me do my next Ertl review this way. You can expect the next items to be a little troublesome, shall we say. That's all for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.